How to survive in Korea. Barbecue restaurants. Step 1. Taking care of your clothes. Put your jacket in the plastic bag. Seal it tight. If the stool flips open, store your clothes inside. Wearing light colors? Grab an apron. It's the best defense against oil splatter and smoke. Step 2. Bottomless side dishes. Basic side dishes at a barbecue restaurant. Eat, and eat as much as you want. Side dishes come with free refills. Oh, and if you don't see this sign, just ask, 사장님, 여기 밑반찬 좀 더 주세요. Simple, isn't it? Step 3. Grilling meat. There are various kinds of samgyeopsal in Korea. Place the meat on the grill. Turn it over when golden. And again when it looks done. Again and again and again. Step 4. Sam style. You aren't taking bites of sam like a taco, are you? In Korea, we have it in one bite. A pro tip here. Add only as much as you can handle in a bite. Gotta avoid awkward situations. Step 5. Enjoy the perks. After the meal, enjoy the perks offered as a Korean restaurant. Fabric refreshers get rid of the barbecue smell, while mint candies freshen your breath. Did you survive the barbecue restaurant? Hang on. Are you here with someone you want to impress? Then let's skip the garlic. Who knows what will happen?
From breaking news in South Korea to stories from around the world, we're here to bring you the news that matters.
Truth, clarity, and impartiality. And that's what we uphold in a fast-changing world.
We go beyond the headlines, offering depth, context, and perspective.
This isn't just news, it's our commitment. News you trust. Arirang News.
drawing more fans from all over the world. Local consumer prices continue to hover at the 2% cent rate in April. Turning to robots to allow the visually impaired the chance to better indulge in cultural experiences. Like the number of hybrid cars are registered in South Korea has surpassed 2 million using this locally developed Yuri rocket.
Arirang. Hello and welcome to our morning edition of Arirang News. We begin with these stories making the headlines at this hour. Following the U.S. Supreme Court's ruling against reciprocal tariffs, the Trump administration is working to restore tariff pressure, saying trading partners want to keep trade deals in place. Meanwhile, officials from South Korea's ruling Democratic Party, the government, and the Blue House agreed to swiftly pass a special bill on investment in the United States. President Lee Jae-myung is set to host the Brazilian president at the Blue House today for summit talks. They're expected to discuss ways to boost cooperation in areas including trade, energy, and technology. This year's Winter Olympics have wrapped up, and South Korea met its target, winning 3 golds, 4 silvers, and 3 bronzes, to finish 13th overall. We begin this morning in the United States, where the White House is moving swiftly to restore tariff pressure after a Supreme Court ruling last week dealt a blow to President Trump's reciprocal tariffs. Our Oh Soo-young has more.
The United States says its trading partners want to keep existing trade agreements in place, even after the Supreme Court struck down President Donald Trump's reciprocal tariffs. U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent told CNN on Sunday that Washington's counterparts want to maintain previously concluded trade deals. He stressed that the court ruling only blocked tariffs imposed under the International Emergency Economic Powers Act, adding that the president still has other authorities. Trump has already moved to use them. On Friday, he triggered a never-before-used Section 122 of the 1974 Trade Act, imposing a 10% global tariff. 1 day later, he said the rate would rise to 15%, the maximum allowed under the law. He also said new legally permissible tariffs would be announced within months. Section 122 allows tariffs of up to 15% for 150 days to address balance of payment concerns. Any extension requires congressional approval. Section 232 of the Trade Expansion Act, meanwhile, allows tariffs on national security grounds and has previously been used on steel and automobiles. The administration is also eyeing Section 301 of the Trade Act, which introduces tariffs after investigations into unfair or discriminatory trade practices. In Seoul, the ruling Democratic Party, the government, and the Office of the President held a closed-door meeting. According to Democratic Party floor spokesperson Moon Kum-ju, participants agreed that the swift passage of the Special Act on Investment in the United States is in the national interest. They pledged to process the bill by March 9th, as agreed by both ruling and opposition parties. Officials also shared concerns that Washington could invoke Section 301 and other trade measures and agreed to refrain from hasty countermeasures.
I would say governments around the region will try to stay competitive in the U.S. market, avoid becoming the targets of the latest rounds of tariff, and position themselves as alternative manufacturing bases when supply chains shift. So you might see some quiet adjustments, incentives to attract relocated factories, closer monitoring of transshipment, and also more trade diplomacy, but not open bargaining power plays, because that is frankly not how Asian countries work, right?
Meanwhile, U.S. Trade Representative Jamieson Greer signaled that enforcement will intensify. He told media that investigations have been launched into Brazil and China under Section 301. He added that Washington will probe excess production capacity in several Asian countries, saying some produce more than they consume and distort global markets. Greer also said that the Supreme Court ruling would not affect the upcoming US-China summit, scheduled for late March or early April. Oh Soo-young, Arirang News.
And now for a closer look at how the U.S. Supreme Court's ruling on the Trump administration's tariffs can have on South Korea. We're joined today by Professor Oh Jun-seok, Dean at the College of Economic and Business at Sookmyung Women's University. Professor Oh, thanks for joining us this morning.
Good morning.
So the U.S. Supreme Court has ruled against most of the global tariffs the White House announced last year, and analysts say this has further raised uncertainties. What's your take on this? How might this affect South Korea?
The court's decision is a good news for sure. Yes, Trump administration has absolute power. No doubt is the U.S. Constitution grants Congress, not the president, the authority to issue tax and tariffs. What a relief is the U.S. system has not lost its control entirely, so that I could expect that what will come based on common knowledge of the separation of power, checks and balances, and the rule of law. What a grief is the court's ruling will not restore the United States to its former place as a reasonable, trustworthy leader in the world. Although the court's ruling will protect the international economic architecture, the rule-based architecture remains fractured. Legal rigidity needs more than flexibility in time of fractured architecture. The court, however, did not limit the president's ability to justify government action. This court's decision might add more to economic uncertainty as deals Trump struck with other countries are appended by the decision. Moreover, within a short time, he needs another source of revenue to fill the budget hole created by the foregone custom duties. It is estimated that the levy collected so far amount to about $120 billion or 0.5% of U.S. GDP. It is unclear whether the Supreme Court's decision will make that process any easier. Section 122 requires congressional approval to extend the tariff beyond 150 days and must not discriminate among countries. Trump could restore to Section 301 of the 1974 Trade Act, which permits tariff to retaliate against unfair trade practices. He could invoke Section 232 of the 1962 Trade Expansion Act, which he used to put levies on steel, aluminum, lumber, semiconductor, and others on national security ground. Many countries around the world must now negotiate same new trade deals, but these also come with the risk of reigniting the same constitutional debate.
I see. And President Trump also said he will raise the global tariff rate from 10% to 15% following that ruling. How might this affect Korean businesses?
There's an estimation the Supreme Court's call will reduce the United States average trade-weighted tariff to 8.3% from 15.3%, which will come as very good news for Korean businesses. Though 8.3% is an extraordinarily high tariff compared to the Korea-US FTA, almost 0% by recent historical standard, the Supreme Court's action may have temporarily halted even higher previously planned 25% tariff, providing a brief reprieve. Despite the U.S. Supreme Court's decision, Seoul will largely maintain trade and investment conditions. What is worried more is many business groups express concerns of business volatility. The decision will lead to extra months of additional uncertainty as the administration pursues new tariffs through other legal authorities. Trump's proposed increase of a global tariff rate to 15% under Section 122 of the Trade Act create significant long-term uncertainty for Korean businesses. Key impact include higher costs for major exports like automobiles or semiconductors. In case of automobiles, a major export face potential profit reduction of up to 23%, while steel and aluminum remains under existing high tariff regime. The 150-day limit on Section 122 tariff means further more tailored tariffs such as Section 301 could follow, targeting specific industries like semiconductor and pharmaceuticals. The 15% rate coupled with existing $350 billion US dollar investment commitment may face renegotiation, complicating business strategies. Many Korean products were already operating under tariff ceiling close to 15% due to existing deals. The court did not say how the government should refund the illegal tariff worse than estimated $175 billion US dollars. When asked about a refund, Trump himself said, we will end up being in the court for the next 5 years.
Right, and some say it'll be difficult for the Korean government to renegotiate that $350 billion deal with the United States. And the government did say the trade conditions, including, the investment plans, will stay in place despite the Supreme Court ruling. How do you think the Korean government should respond given the Korean tariff uncertainties, and how might tariff negotiations play out from now on?
More than anything else, that Investors in the capital market also has the hope for easing inflation against uncertainty about Trump's next move on tariff. Based on the current highly volatile situation, the $350 billion investment deal is facing a severe bottleneck. The situation is characterized by the cash upfront demand from the United States, and a subsequent U.S. Supreme Court ruling will lead to a complex multi-front trade crisis. It is very crucial for Seoul to analyze exactly which products are affected by the nullified reciprocal tariff and which fall on the separate trade actions. What is more crucial is Seoul has to keep its stance as a consolidated and trusted partner, keeping promises in any way. The financial burden of $350 billion deal is very enormous, nearly 72% of Korea's budget. Seoul should leverage the U.S. reliance on Korean technology, such as semiconductors, shipbuilding, EV batteries, to secure more favorable terms, such as a spreading investment over a longer period of securing tax breaks rather than cash upfront. Semiconductors are key areas of concern. The Trump administration has floated tariff up to 100% on chips. Tariff on Korea's automotive, steel, and battery sectors remain unchanged, as these industries are subject to Section 232 duties tied to national security concerns. Auto tariffs are under renegotiation, with discussion focused on reducing the rate to 15% from a potential 25%, while steel tariffs remain 50%. Tariffs are burdensome, but uncertainty is more difficult for companies because it increases planning costs and complicating investment decisions. The Korean government is unlikely to abandon the deal because of the strategic security aspect, including nuclear power, submarine, and defense technology.
Right, and you mentioned sector-specific tariffs on industries like steel and automobiles. And they remain in place untouched by the Supreme Court's ruling. And there are concerns that the United States could impose higher tariffs on other industries other than steel and automobiles. How should Korean companies prepare themselves?
With the U.S. signaling a return to a higher 25% tariff on Korean goods, including automobiles, biopharmacy, and potential 100% tariff on semiconductors, if local investment is not deemed sufficient, Korean companies are bracing for a challenging trade environment. To prepare for this, companies are focusing on three conditions: localization, diversification, and active government support. But first, localization in the U.S. To avoid the high tariff, major manufacturers are accelerating the establishment of production base within North America. Automakers like Hyundai Motors, Kia are increasing local production to maintain flexibility, and battery manufacturers are already leveraging their existing U.S. plant. Pharmaceuticals and biotech companies like Samsung Biologics and Celltrion are activating contingency plan, focusing on increasing localizing through acquisition and partnership. Second, diversification. Diversifying market and supply chain. Companies are exploring market beyond the U.S. to reduce dependency, with particular focus on strengthening economic ties with Southeast Asia, India, and Middle East. Given the volatility, firms also try to diversify supply chain to avoid disruptions and are preparing the contingency plan to mitigate the impact of potential 25 tariffs. Lastly, seeking government support. Korean government and companies are invoking no less favorable treatment clause, which was part of U.S.-Korea joint fact sheet. This is to ensure that Korea receives a similar exemption and terms to those negotiated by Taiwan. Companies are analyzing legality of a potential tariff increase and reviewing the possibility of many cases.
I see. I guess we'll have to see how that goes. All right, Professor, well, thank you so much for your time and insight this morning. We appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
President Lee Jae-myung will host Brazilian President Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva at the Blue House for summit talks on Monday. According to Lee's office, the two leaders will discuss ways to strengthen cooperation across a wide range of sectors, including trade, energy, and technology.
Their talks will be followed by the signing of memorandums of understanding, a joint press briefing, and a state dinner. Lula is on a 3-day state visit to South Korea that began Sunday. President Ian Lula last met on the sidelines of the G7 summit in Canada last June. Meanwhile, North Korean leader Kim Jong-un has been re-elected as General Secretary of the ruling Workers' Party, reaffirming his position as the regime's top political leader. The North State Media Korean Central News Agency reported on Monday that the decision was adopted on the 4th day of the 9th Party Congress, with delegates fully supporting a proposal to re-elect Kim to the highest post. Under party rules, the General Secretary is elected at a Congress held every 5 years. A resolution credited Kim with strengthening the country's nuclear-based war deterrence and building armed forces prepared for any form of conflict. Party officials declared that sanctions and external pressure no longer work against North Korea. The United States and Iran are set to hold another round of nuclear talks on Thursday in Geneva. The upcoming meeting was confirmed by Oman's Foreign Minister Badr al-Busaidi on Sunday. The talks come as Tehran faces renewed domestic protests and the threat of a possible U.S. military strike. The Trump administration has expanded its military presence in the Middle East while pressing Iran for concessions on its nuclear program. Iran's top diplomat Abbas Araghchi told CBS he expects to meet U.S. envoy Steve Witkoff in Geneva, adding that there remains a good chance of a diplomatic solution. And as we have been reporting, physical AI has excited people with new cool tech and improvements in working conditions, while some are concerned about their jobs being replaced. Can politicians find the answer to make the most of this technology while protecting its people and their livelihoods? Our Kim Do-yeon spoke to lawmakers addressing the issue.
As the prospect of robots replacing human labor becomes reality with physical AI's recent rapid advancement, the political world has begun debating the subject. President Lee Jae-myung referenced the Luddites in 19th century to suggest you can't stand in the way of progress.
그 기계 파괴 운동이라고 사람들이 일자리를 뺀다고 기계 부수자 이런 운동이 있었잖아요. 근데 그 흘러오는 거대한 수레를 피할 수 없습니다. 결국 그 사회에 빨리 적응해야죠. 기술을 익히고 그걸 증기기관 기계를 통제하는, 조정하는 또는 만들어내는, 수리하는 이런 기능이 또 필요하잖아요.
Consulting firm McKinsey forecasts that by 2030, 800 million jobs will be gone due to AI, and South Korea is at the heart of it, with the highest robot density in the world last year. And for a lawmaker who represents Ulsan, often known as the industrial capital of South Korea, where heavy industries and auto plants make up the city's economy, the reality is coming fast.
If we simply resist this change, the outcome is clear. Companies will move overseas, jobs will vanish, and the very foundation of Korean manufacturing will collapse, dragging the entire economy down with it.
Meanwhile, lawmaker Choi Eun-seok has proposed a soft landing bill to complement South Korea's existing AI Basic Act.
We must prioritize education and retraining. By helping our workers adapt to new, complex roles in this evolving landscape, we can ensure no one is left behind in the transition.
While at early stages of talks, lawmakers are also looking at ways to make sure everybody directly benefits from physical AI and ease the concerns over job losses.
Instead of corporate ownership, imagine a citizen-funded model where profits from robot labor are redistributed back to the people. In the long run, implementing a robot tax or automation tax will be an inevitable necessity.
Most importantly, both lawmakers call for a unified national dialogue. They see this not just as a challenge, but as an opportunity for South Korea to lead the world in balancing innovation with labor.
As the AI era arrives, we must proactively address how it will reshape our labor and daily lives. Now is the time to pool our wisdom to ensure that human value isn't lost in the age of machines.
Now, with the transition to AI seemingly inevitable, the world is watching to see if business, labor, and both sides of the aisle can come together to set a new global standard for the future. Kim Do-yeon, Arirang News.
The 2026 Milano Cortina Winter Olympics have come to an end, with South Korea finishing 13th overall and meeting its 3 gold medal target, powered by short track success. Short track gold medalist Kim Gi-lee was named the Korean team's MVP. Our Lee Seung-jae reports.
South Korea has achieved its goal at the Milan Cortina Winter Olympics, securing 3 gold medals thanks to a strong lead push from its short track speed skating team. The country also finished the games with 4 silvers and 3 bronzes. That meets the target set by the Korean Sport and Olympic Committee, which had aimed to win at least 1 more gold than at the 2022 Beijing Winter Games, where South Korea collected 2 golds, 5 silvers, and 2 bronzes. The decisive 3rd gold came Friday night when short track skater Kim Gi-lee captured the women's 1,500-meter title, edging out teammate Choi Min-jung. Earlier that day, the men's 5,000-meter relay team added a silver medal to the tally. Once again, short track skaters carried the medal campaign. They accounted for 2 golds, 3 silvers, and 2 bronzes, proof of the sport being South Korea's most reliable Winter Olympic discipline. Kim Gi-lee stood out as the only South Korean athlete to win multiple gold medals in Milan Cortina. On Sunday, she was named the most valuable player of the South Korean delegation.
There were many truly difficult moments, but thanks to everyone who supported me, I was able to endure them, and I will continue to grow into an even better athlete in the future.
The Korean Sport and Olympic Committee said she was voted MVP by South Korean journalists covering the games. The committee has presented the award to top-performing athletes at major multi-sport events since the 2023 Hangzhou Asian Games. Lee Seung-jae, Arirang News.
Good morning, I'm Chu Ji-hyun, and this is The World Now. U.S. Secret Service agents shot and killed an armed man after he breached the secured perimeter of President Donald Trump's Mar-a-Lago resort. Authorities say the incident happened at about 1:30 a.m. Sunday when a man drove through the resort's north gate as another vehicle was exiting. He was reportedly carrying a shotgun and a gas can. When Secret Service agents and a Palm Beach County sheriff ordered him to drop the items, he raised the shotgun into a firing position and was then shot dead. President Donald Trump and First Lady Melania Trump were at the White House in Washington at the time. Investigators have identified the intruder as 21-year-old Austin Tucker Martin from North Carolina and says his family had reported him missing days earlier and believe he traveled south before obtaining the weapon. A box for the shotgun was later found inside his vehicle. The FBI is leading the investigation and says it is compiling a psychological profile, and officials say they have not determined a motive. A Mexican military operation has killed cartel leader Nemesio Oseguera, known as El Mencho, marking one of the most significant cartel takedowns in years. Mexico's defense ministry says troops engaged Oseguera in a shootout in Jalisco state on Sunday, critically wounded him, and he died during an air transfer to Mexico City. Oseguera led the Jalisco New Generation Cartel, a powerful organization that expanded into an international trafficking network and moved cocaine and fentanyl into the United States. The operation triggered immediate retaliation. Gunmen torched vehicles and blocked highways across at least 6 states. Jalisco Governor Pablo Lemus Navarro urged residents to remain indoors. The U.S. Embassy advised American citizens to shelter in place, and major airlines canceled flights to the region. Greenland Prime Minister Jens Fredrik Nielsen on Sunday rejected President Donald Trump's proposal to send a U.S. hospital ship to the Arctic territory. Trump had posted on Truth Social that, quote, many people in Greenland are sick and that a boat with medical supplies would be dispatched to take care of them. Nielsen said Greenland provides free public health care to its citizens and does not need outside medical assistance. He urged Washington to engage through dialogue rather than social media announcements. Pope Leo issued a plea for an immediate ceasefire in Ukraine during his Angelus address on Sunday, marking the 4th anniversary of the Russian invasion. Speaking to thousands in St. Peter's Square, the pontiff declared that, quote, peace cannot be postponed and demanded an end to the shattering of lives and families. With casualty figures now exceeding 1.8 million across both sides since 2022, the Pope urged global leaders to translate dialogue into responsible decisions to end the destruction.
Dry weather advisories are in place for the capital area and most of the eastern parts of Korea. In particular, wildfire alert levels have been raised to caution in parts of Gyeongsang-do province, where a large wildfire has broken out. With dry air and powerful winds combined, extreme caution is required to prevent further fires. Meanwhile, air quality will stay bad due to yellow dust. Central region's Jeollado province and Jeju Island will be trapped in dusty air all day, with concentrations spiking into the very bad level at times. And after a spring-like Saturday, there has been a big drop in temperatures. Seoul will be getting up to 5 degrees. Daegu tops out at 12 degrees Celsius under mostly sunny skies. Then we're looking at a mix of rain and snow nationwide tomorrow, which may help ease the dry conditions. Meanwhile, temperatures will rise to the mid-teens starting Wednesday.
Now that's all we have for this morning. Arirang News will be back at noon Korea time. Stay tuned.
저는 만 5살에 바이올린을 시작했는데요. 바이올린 소리를 워낙 좋아했어서 그 특유의 따뜻함과 약간 사람의 목소리 같은 목소리를 갖고 있거든요, 바이올린이. 저는 무대에 올랐을 때보다는 이제 혼자 연습할 때 더 큰 희열을 느끼는데, 제가 표현하고자 하는 음악이 잘 나왔을 때 그때 가장 큰 기쁨을 느끼는 것 같아요. 그래서 저만의 색깔을 어떻게 하면 찾아갈 수 있을까, 그걸 제일 많이 고민하는 것 같아요. 아무래도 연습을 할 때는 이제 생각과 고민을 많이 하는 반면에 무대에서 연주할 때는 정말 머릿속을 비우고 아무 생각도 안 하려고 하는 것 같아요. 무대에서는 자유롭게, 콩쿨 무대도 저만의 독주라고 생각하는 자세를 가지려고 하고 있어요. 사실 바이올린과는 거의 제 인생의 대부분을 같이 해왔기 때문에 저를 힘들게 할 때도 많지만 제가 가장 사랑하고 아끼는 존재입니다. 작곡가가 전달하고 싶은 메시지와 또 제 자신이 관객들에게 전달하고 싶은 메시지를 모두 다 설득력 있게 잘 전달할 수 있는 그런 연주자가 되고 싶습니다.
We're here to bring a new type of news show.
New insights, new styles, and new topics every day.
We are News Generation.
Bringing news just for you. It's Monday, February 23rd here in Seoul. I'm Lee Soo-jin, and this is News Generation. Joining us today is Cheska.
Happy Monday, everyone.
Happy Monday. And also Julian's with us. Happy Monday. And both are here to speak on behalf of people in their 20s and 30s. So it's the first day of the work week, and today we're talking about something many of us encounter more often than we realize. From fashion and beauty to everyday items, counterfeit products have quietly made their way into our daily lives. So, Jessica, here's a question for you. Have you ever unknowingly purchased a counterfeit product?
So fortunately, I can confidently say I have not, but what's also fortunate is because I don't buy a lot of branded products, so there isn't a lot of room for counterfeits, but I've heard of some very clever ways that now counterfeit products are being made, and they're so close to the original that people actually don't even know that they have bought the counterfeit product until they bring it somewhere or they get it authenticated. And I also know that some people actually enjoy buying very specific counterfeit products because they're either so well made or they're like a parody of branded product.
That's why it's so hard to catch whether these products are fake or not. So what about you, Julian?
Honestly, maybe I have in the past, but I wasn't aware of it.
That's the thing, like you don't know if you have a counterfeit.
They're so well made.
I have no idea, but from what I can remember, no, I don't believe I have. I don't even like to get third-party accessories for my products. I usually like to get the original product rather than a knockoff or alternative. But when it comes to shopping, I like to invest in high-quality pieces because every time I get an alternative or for something cheaper, I usually end up regretting it. So for me, it's less about saving money, but more investing in pieces that are durable, of high quality. So yeah, but unfortunately, even if you have a preference for not getting knockoffs, it's still possible to unknowingly purchase it, like I mentioned earlier. So we will discuss it later on.
Right, and because there's so many different products that are being made, that are duplicates made of those products, like I saw recently stress balls are counterfeit stress balls now.
How can you, why would you? It's a stress ball.
There's so many different types. So that's what makes this issue so tricky. So even careful shoppers can end up buying counterfeits without realizing it. So we're going to talk more about this, but first let's take a look at the screen. From fashion to beauty, Korean products are now highly sought after by consumers around the world. While global recognition of Korean design and quality is certainly a success story, it has also brought an unexpected challenge: the rapid rise of counterfeit goods. Today on News Generation, we take a closer look at the growing problem of fake Korean stores and the surge in imitation products, why Hallyu-inspired counterfeits are spreading, and what needs to be done moving forward. As we just saw in the video, the global popularity of Korean brands is growing rapidly, but so are concerns about imitation and copycat businesses. So let's start with some real examples that have recently sparked controversy. So Cheska, what cases of these counterfeit issues are gaining attention?
Yeah, and so for any foreigner who has visited or traveled to Korea, it's impossible not to have seen the store Arirang. Right. Yeah, we all know it's kind of our staple place to go for cosmetics. But recently, a huge controversy has emerged after a store called Arirang opened in China. Arirang? Arirang. Which, as you can already tell, the name sounds remarkably similar to the Korean store. What's more is the store didn't just copy the name, but also the logo design, the signature green color scheme, and even the overall product display layout and the interior arrangement, which closely resembled the Korean original store. Now, what's more is the marketing strategy reportedly leans heavily on this K-wave imagery, using Korean beauty trends and branding aesthetics to attract consumers. So it was really hard to tell whether it was a branch of Arirang, or, like we discussed, is it a counterfeit?
I think that's
very closely made.
Right. I think that's a really important point, because what makes it so concerning is how closely these stores replicate not just the products, but the entire brand experience, making it difficult for consumers to tell the difference. And this doesn't appear to be an isolated incident limited to one industry or one country. So, Julian, could you walk us through some other cases overseas where Korean, sometimes even identity is being imitated?
Yeah, so there is a correlation to this. When a product becomes popular, especially if production can't keep up with demand, there is going to be an increasing demand for counterfeit goods. There has been a bunch of cases overseas where Korean brands have been imitated, like Cheska's mentioned Arirang, but another case is in Shanghai, China, where a New York bagel museum opened that imitated a well-known Korean bakery brand. And another case is in the Middle East, where a Chinese lifestyle company called Mumuso sparked controversy for using the acronym KR, which is basically an abbreviation for Korea on its store signage. So basically it is saying that it is claiming that it is a Korean brand on its to its customers. So this is a lot of this is very controversial too.
It can create a lot of misunderstanding.
Yes.
So it's interesting, also alarming, to see how the image of Korea itself is being used as a marketing tool, even by companies with no real connection to Korea. And the issue goes beyond store names or branding alone. We're also hearing that counterfeit products themselves are also increasing rapidly. So how serious has this problem become, Cheska?
Well, unfortunately, as Korean beauty products continue to gain global popularity, concerns have also been growing over counterfeit branding and intellectual property violations riding this momentum of the Korean wave. Now, one survey even found that 70% of consumers who purchased counterfeit beauty products believed they were buying authentic items. As we said in the opening, Julian, we can't tell if it is real or not. And you can find testimonials of people who have become victims of counterfeit products, reporting skin irritation, problems with breakouts, and other adverse reactions after unknowingly using fake products. And this actually highlights the serious risk that counterfeit product pose, which could involve consumer safety.
I mean, that's particularly worrying, especially when consumers believe they're buying authentic products and end up facing real health issues. And authorities have also begun stepping up enforcement as the scale of the problem grows. So what are officials seeing on the ground regarding the detection of counterfeit goods, Julian?
Yeah, so it's a very serious issue, and consuming counterfeit products can be very frustrating, but also downright dangerous as well. That's why officials are really stepping up inspections. In January, the Korean Customs Service announced last year's crackdown results on counterfeit K-brand products, reporting that authorities have seized as many as 120,000 items. So as Korean products continue to gain popularity overseas, officials have intensified inspections at the customs inspection stage. So let's take a look at the screen to find out more. So by product category, cosmetics and toys accounted for the largest share. Cosmetics are especially tricky because Korean cosmetics are very, very popular, especially overseas, and many companies are unfortunately producing counterfeits, and has gone to the point where the average consumer may struggle to differentiate between the real and fake product. In addition to that, the range of counterfeit goods are actually quite diverse, including t-shirts, sunglasses, dolls, and more. So this is both not good for the company as it can hurt their business and reputation for the consumer because counterfeit products do not go through the same rigorous checks as the real product.
Right, so and those numbers really show how widespread the issue has become and how counterfeit goods now span far beyond just one category. And with the scale expanding like this, damage inevitably extends beyond simple brand imitation. So, Jessica, what broader consequences are emerging from this kind of situation?
Yeah, as you mentioned, I think these counterfeit products do go far more beyond than just financial damages. They pose real risk to the health and safety of the many consumers overseas and international people who really love Korean product, and can ultimately damage the trust and credibility built around Korean product as a whole, which I think is very important. Because when the buyers don't even realize that they have become victims to these fake goods and have a negative experience, they would associate that with a consumer confidence in the Korean product, and that will be weakened over time. And it could be the original Korean brand that actually suffers the reputation damage. So long term, it's really about protecting brand credibility and ensuring consumer safety in the global K-wave market. And one thing that we also discussed before coming on the show is that there are also small businesses in Korea that are trying to grow businesses overseas by exporting. But if we lose credibility in the Korean brand, then those no-name brands won't hold the credibility for the international consumers to purchase the product. So I think it hurts the market overall.
Yeah, I guess that is a good point, how it's like the smaller companies that will be hit the hardest when they're trying to build their image and their brand overseas.
Exactly, yes.
So in the end, it's not only companies that suffer losses, consumers' safety and trust in Korean products themselves are also at stake. And even when companies try to fight back, resolving these issues unfortunately isn't always straightforward. So what challenges do companies face when trying to reclaim their trademarks or take legal action, Julian?
So unfortunately, this process is extremely complicated. And what makes it complicated is that reclaiming trademark rights require a significant amount of time and money through litigation. So overseas trademark invalidation trials or rights recovery procedures can take up to from several years from initiation to final ruling. So legally, it is very, very complicated and quite difficult to effectively prevent these cases. So even if these companies want to ensure that these products are protected overseas, it can be quite a lengthy process.
I can imagine. And all that really highlights how complex this issue is. Even when companies win public support, the legal process itself can take years. And it seems clear that as Korean brands continue to gain global influence, stronger international cooperation and preventive measures will become increasingly important moving forward. So to better understand the legal challenges involved, we're going to talk to a legal expert. So that conversation will take place right after the break, so don't go anywhere.
NewsGen wants to hear from you. Go to YouTube and search out channel Arirang News. Click Posts and cast your vote in the poll. Make a new type of news with us.
Joining us today is An Jun-sang, a lawyer from Korea. Hello, thank you so much for connecting with us today.
Good morning.
Good morning. So what kind of legal penalties do companies face in Korea for producing counterfeit products?
Actually, in Korea, producing counterfeit products is a very serious situation here. So there are two types of the penalties under the Korean trademark law. It's criminal penalties and the civil liability. As for the criminal penalties, under the Korean trademark law, infringement itself constitutes a criminal offense. It means it's a constitutional crime in Korea. The maximum penalty is imprisonment for up to 7 years or a fine of up to 10 or 100 million won. and counterfeit goods are subject to confiscation. And also second, the civil liability, and the trademark owner may seek an injunction to stop the sale of infringement products and destroy existing inventory and then remove the manufacturing facility. And also trademark owner may claim damages, means that pay for the money, and the infringement was committed intentionally or negligently. And in case of willful infringement, the trademark owner may seek a punitive damage subject to a maximum of 5 times of the actual damage. And in addition, under the Korean Unfair Competition Prevention Act, even if a trademark is not registered, and if you misappropriate a widely known trademark or trade name to cause consumer confusion, can lead to additional criminal penalties, which is either imprisonment for up to 3 years or a fine of up to 30 million won. So there are very serious charges in Korea for trademark infringement.
Mr. Ahn, as we've discussed in today's episode, there are many overseas cases like this, and also it seems like more of these cases will happen cross-border. So how difficult is it to take legal actions or pursue punishment in these kind of international or cross-border cases?
Yes, as you said, sometimes things problem here is the international crossing border situation, right? And generally speaking, the best way to protect, right, the trademark overseas is to file with the relevant government authority in advance. So if your products you plan to go to China or like Japan, you need to file with the relevant government authorities. The problem in practice is that the fact that each country has and operates its own registration system. What I mean? Sometimes it differs from country by country. That's the issue. And for example, China has the first to file system. So under the trademark law of the People's Republic of China, trademark rights are granted not to the party who used the mark first, but to the party who filed the application first. So it means that even if a Korean company has long used its brand in Korea, if it did not register the trademark in China in advance, a third party in China could technically file first and become the lawful trademark owner in China. So that's a very serious situation.
Great. So to wrap things up, what legal measures or protections are needed to better safeguard the intellectual property rights of Korean companies?
Okay. To better protect the intellectual property right of Korean companies, especially countries like in China, both preventive action by company and the closer government cooperation is necessary. First, the company must take proactive measures like such, because that China follows, as we talk about, the first to file system. The trademark rights are granted to whoever filed first, not to whoever used the mark first. So this means that Korean companies should register their trademark in China before entering the market and register both English and Chinese version of their brand names. This is very important because there are actual court case in China about the different interpretation about the English version and Chinese version. And also they monitor new trademark filing to detect similar mark at the early stage. And second, closer government cooperation between Korea and China hopefully would further strengthen protections, especially for small and medium-sized companies that lack resources to engage in a lengthy legal dispute in foreign countries.
All right. Thank you so much for sharing your insight with us today, Mr. Ahn.
Thank you.
So we just heard from a legal expert about the legal challenges companies face when trying to combat counterfeit goods, both domestically and overseas. But as the problem grows, efforts are no longer limited to companies alone. So how has the government begun stepping in to address the issue, Cheska?
As the counterfeit problem worsens, experts do argue that corporate responses alone are no longer enough. And as we heard from our expert, there are many things that a legal action needs to be taken. So there are growing calls for stronger government-level cooperation on the intellectual property protection, as well as closer coordination with the local law enforcement overseas. Now, recognizing the seriousness of the issue, the Office of the President of the Republic of Korea has acknowledged the need for action. And relevant ministries have been tasked with conducting a comprehensive review of the current system, while also prepping for potential legal amendments and budget support measures.
So it is quite significant to see the government recognizing the scale of the problem and moving toward coordinated action, but still preventing counterfeit purchases also depends heavily on consumer awareness. And besides this, what can consumers do to avoid buying these counterfeit products, Julian?
Yeah, so as a consumer, it can be very overwhelming and quite confusing to differentiate the differences. It's really, really important to take these precautions as a consumer. So the safest approach is to buy through official retailers or choose products that carry the authentic certification marks on the product. It is also important to clearly distinguish between the difference between dupes and counterfeits. There is a clear distinction between the two. So dupes emphasize that there are similar versions of the product without infringing on the actual intellectual property rights, whereas counterfeits illegally replicate logos, design, patents, and technologies. So on other words, it's completely illegal. Consumers need to be very, very aware of this distinction and use this information to make informed choices. So even though they might not be the original, dupes have actually become very popular amongst millennials and Gen Zers because it's still a great option that is still authentic, but it doesn't completely disregard the safety and the brand credibility.
And making that distinction is also really important because a lot of times people think they can be used interchangeably. And especially as trends like dupes, like Julian said, become more popular among younger consumers. And beyond individual choices, this trend also raises a bigger question about why these counterfeits keep appearing. So why are Hallyu counterfeits increasing, Cheska, and what's, I guess, the way forward?
And I want to be very careful here because I'm not in any way trying to lessen the seriousness of counterfeit product. But if you think about it, the sheer fact that we've come to a point in a time, an era, where it is becoming a serious issue is also a sign about the rising power and the demand of Korea globally. Because if you really think about it, this is incredible because only counterfeit products usually target high-value products or the most popular. Which means Korean brand has ranked in a certain way that has this kind of brand power. Now that being said, it is also important to protect the consumers and the brand power. Because of that, there should be more coordinated national level strategy, stronger monitoring of online marketplaces, and clear authentication system for buyers. Because it's really hard for consumers to tell the difference between. And because as the issues stand, this goes beyond preventing financial loss, but also about protecting the trust and the momentum of the Korean cultural brand power.
I'm really glad you pointed out how this is also, it's important to recognize how this also means that Korean brands are also being recognized globally.
Exactly. There is an underlying message to that, which is separate from the counterfeit issue.
Right, exactly. So in many ways, it reflects just how influential Korean products have become worldwide. It's also very much in demand. And the issue isn't limited to physical goods anymore, however. So what's the way forward to prevent counterfeit goods, Julian?
Yeah, so we've been talking about the rise of counterfeit products in physical goods, but the issue doesn't stop at physical goods. It's now extended to digital content as well. Content imitation and piracy have become increasingly common. So to avoid misleading or unauthorized material, it's best to access content through official streaming platforms. Using illegal sites not only supports piracy, but also increases the risk of encountering fake or manipulated content as well. So my general advice is to, if you're looking to get more authentic, real products, just get it through legal distributors. There's a sure way to ensure that you're getting the real product instead of getting something that is fake or manipulated. But to wrap things up, I think today's discussion, like we had mentioned earlier, that even though counterfeit products are not good and we don't support it, it is a clear indicator that Korean brands and Korean content has been increasing and the demand is very high for that. So moving forward, I think that in order to protect both the business and the consumers looking to enjoy these products, to have appropriate protections that ensure the safety and well-being for the people to enjoy the products as well as the companies to preserve their brand credibility.
So as Korean brands continue to gain global recognition, protecting their value has become more important than ever. The fight against counterfeits now requires cooperation from governments, companies, and consumers alike. Greater awareness and stronger protection can help prevent counterfeit damage, because in the end, protecting authenticity means protecting the reputation of Korean brands worldwide. And that brings us to the end of today's episode of News Generation. But News Gen will be back tomorrow at 10:30 a.m. Korea time with more stories and discussions. A big thanks to Cheska.
This is always mine, thank you.
And also Julian.
Thank you for having me today.
For joining us today. And to our viewers, thank you for watching. And remember to shop smart and shop authentic. We are News Generation.
Curious about Korea?
And especially K-food? How familiar are you with Korean food? The sea on 3 sides, a mountainous terrain, and 4 distinct seasons. Thanks to these conditions, Korean cuisine bursts with diverse and unique flavors.
Do you prefer sweet or spicy?
A meat lover or a seafood connoisseur?
Can't decide?
There's got to be something here that you like.
For Koreans, rice is foundational. It's a staple and the centerpiece to all meals in Korea. There's bibimbap, rice mixed with vegetables, gukbap, rice in hot soup, and kimbap is the demand around the world.
For me, it's noodles over rice. Korea has amazing noodle dishes. Chuyi ramen and cold naengmyeon to blow away the heat. A meat lover here, pork, beef, chicken, I like them all. Did you know that bulgogi is listed in the English dictionary? There's also the famous chimek, chicken and beer, which is the best combo for a night out with friends.
Surrounded by the sea on 3 sides,